At this time, we'll call to order the June 19, 2017 Alexander County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I will mention tonight is we do not have public comment tonight. We will have that on our July meeting. We will have public hearings, and there can be comments made about the items that are in public hearing. At this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Josh Lale for invocation, and then Ronnie Reese will be doing our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Please rise. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this rain. Thank you for allowing us to come together to hopefully make good decisions to improve Alexander County. Thank you for this rain. Thank you for all the blessings that you give. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if any commissioners want to make any comments on commissioners' reports, please feel free to do so.
I'll make one very brief comment. My son has, I guess, entered the realms of athletic events. I guess the wild and crazy athletic events that we parents get tied up into. But anyway, my son was lucky enough to be asked to be on one of the county all-star teams, and they went to a tournament over the weekend. And that didn't have anything to do with what I'm saying, but what I was very impressed by the coaches of our team. Our little team our team did very well. Won 2 games, lost 1. But in victory and defeat, they not only were more than happy to shake hands, but our kids took their hats off, held their hats under their arms, and shook hands with their right hand. And actually, after they lost their game, their coaches, who were Alexander County people, had our boys stand, and cheer and clap and congratulate the other team as they received their trophies. And it just, I don't want to say it renewed my faith in the people here, but at least for one little baseball team, the folks that are in charge of them from Alexander County are showing the rest of the world that Alexander County is full of wonderful people. That's all.
Anything else? Also mentioned we had a special recognition for Mr. Lynn Tigg, but Mr. Tigg, unfortunately, due to a medical situation, cannot be here tonight, so we will probably postpone that to the July meeting. Gentlemen, at this time, I'd entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda with one correction. Apologize for that.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as stated.
Second.
Apologize for that. I thought I had it on mute. The correction will be, we will move the county manager's report to item 6. In number 5, we will add a feasibility study committee discussion regarding the ABC referendum that was passed. Would you like to modify your motion, or are you still?
That's still good.
Okay. Could I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. Okay. All right, at this time, item agenda number 1, Alexander County 2017-18 budget. I'll recognize Mr. Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets is the 2017-2018 budget ordinance for Alexander County. The budget totals $39,500,000 with a contingency of $484,242. There is no proposed tax increase. As we talked about in our work session at our last meeting, the city of Hickory is proposing a 1.7% increase in water rates. That it may not be 1.7, but it'll be up to 1.7. Water taps will continue at the inside rate for the upcoming budget year. We also talked a little bit about the increase in building inspection fees. All trade permits would increase from $65 to $70. The minimum fee for any inspection would increase from $65 to $70, and the fees for building plans would increase to 21 cents per square foot to 25 cents. And one last item is regarding the $150,000 payment to the schools concerning the auditorium. That's called the auditorium reimbursement. The $150,000 payment is from the county to the Alexander County School Board of Education. The county borrowed $6,256,217 on June 30th, 2004 to finance 3 projects. One of those projects was building an auditorium at the county's high school. $4 million of the 6/30/2004 loan was for the auditorium construction. For many years, the county has paid debt service on school capital projects from Article 40 and Article 42 sales tax that is set aside for school capital. When the auditorium project came along, the Board of Education did not want the full amount of the debt service to be paid from sales tax set-aside money. The Board of Education wanted the county to pay $2 million or half of the principal amount of the auditorium debt out of the county general fund money. The county agreed to a 12-year schedule to make annual payments to the Board of Education as follows. In 2006, we paid $125,000. In 2007, we paid $200,000. 2008, we paid $325,000, and then we paid $150,000 per year for the fiscal years 2009 through 2017. So with those payments, those what we call the auditorium reimbursement payments, those have been paid, and the county has fulfilled the county obligation in that matter. And Mr. Chairman, unless there's any question, I'll be glad to answer any questions about the budget ordinance.
Gentlemen, any questions on the budget as presented? Ms. French, correct if I'm wrong, but this includes the COLA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because, you know, I guess I'm not against the COLA in substance, but I guess always my big concern is you pass the same increase to all employees. And I think that sometimes can be unfair because I would think different departments have different level employees, and the ability to have a pool of funds versus a just 2.5% increase to all can quite frankly be a disincentive to your better employees. But that's just a fundamental issue. I think I've stated that on numerous occasions.
And it's not effective until October.
Right. But, you know, you and I have had a lot of conversations. I just don't like how that's done
Understand.
historically, but it appears to be a government thing, so.
I think it's worth noting also that every item and all the people are certainly really important, but we spend about $10 million if you count detention and social services on, you know, providing services a lot of times for things sometimes that are pretty tough and pretty mandated, and that's a big chunk of money.
So any other questions regarding the budget? I think you've looked at it about 1,000,000 times, so.
Yeah, we've took it apart, I think, but we're pretty close with what we did last year. Isn't that correct, Mr. French?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Gentlemen, if no other questions, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the budget as presented.
Move to approve.
Have a motion? Do I have a
Second.
second? Have a second? Any discussion on the motion? And the 484, what I call squish, is just discretionary as items may come up
Yes, sir.
to eliminate
Yes, sir.
numerous budget amendments, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I like having the squish in there.
We'll still have budget amendments, but not,
Right, not to the quantity, hopefully, that we've had in the past. Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor of the budget as presented, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. Passes. Okay. Okay, I will recognize Mr. David Icenhour for a public hearing, Borealis Compounds Property Tax Incentive Grant. So I guess I need a motion for us to go into public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into public hearing to discuss the Borealis tax incentives.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. Okay, Mr. Eisenhower.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, as noted, this public hearing is in relation to the recent announcement that Borealis Compounds Incorporated will locate in Alexander County, investing approximately $15 million total and creating at least 37 new jobs over the next few years. You have in your packets a copy of the Joint Economic Development Agreement, which is the legal agreement between Borealis and Alexander County, and it outlines the property tax incentive that the company is eligible for. I would note that there may seem to be a discrepancy between what I just said of their total investment of $15 million. The document that you have references $12 million, and that's because the incentive is based on improvements to the property, being upgrades to the building and whatever equipment that the company installs in the building in the future. And also as just a quick explanation of our incentive policy, it is a policy that is three-pronged. It's based on the increased investment, taxable investment that a company makes in Alexander County. It's based on the number of jobs that a company will create in Alexander County, and it's based on the pay for those jobs. So we score each of those things. Do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, before we get further, so I don't get deeper in lost thought, can you explain that difference in 15 and 12 million again for me?
Yes, sir. The company was estimating that their total expenses in Alexander County would be approximately $15 million, including the purchase of the property. The building already existed, already had a tax value. So in our policy, we don't, if a building is already existing and it's already taxed, somebody's paying those taxes, we don't give that tax value incentive back to a new company.
Gotcha.
So there's a little bit of a difference there. So your property tax incentive, again, is based on new taxable value.
The land and the building are tax valued right now at $3 million.
Well, not quite, but
Okay.
it's well over 1 million.
Okay.
And again, as I was saying, our incentive is based on a scoring system. Taxable investment, number of jobs created, and average pay for those jobs. Each of those three things gets a score. So the highest you can score in this system is 15 points. Borealis scored 13. So that, and based on your policy, that makes them eligible for a 6-year property tax grant and that would be a return of 95% to the company. There's a couple of very important things that I want to say about the grant program. Number one, the company does not receive any money until they have paid taxes. They are not guaranteed a specific amount of money, but only a percentage. So therefore, even though we have $12 million in this incentive, if they invest more than $12 million, then their grant would be more than it would be, based on whatever your property tax rate is. And another point is that amount can change. The actual dollar amount of the incentive may change based on what this board does with the property tax rate. And also point out that there are clawbacks in this, meaning that if performance measures are not met, then the incentive can be canceled by the board. It is I guess I would say it's the standard incentive agreement for property taxes that we have been using for a number of years. We use this for new industry. We use it for existing industry as well. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I would be happy to answer any questions you or anyone from the public may have about this. I'll step aside in case anybody wants to speak.
Anybody?
I'll just make one comment. One of the stipulations is that all the jobs are equal to, or pay equal to or greater than the average weekly wage of Alexander County wage earners, workers. Is that correct?
Correct. That's part of the scoring system,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So these are above average to average paying jobs, I guess.
Yes.
By my phone calculator, which I use a lot, using estimated round numbers of $12 million and our current tax rate, that works out to a savings to Borealis or loss of revenue to the county of $90,060 per year. And when you times that by 6, that is $540,360. That's quite, I mean, that's quite an incentive. I mean, which I'm, you know, and I'm,
You're in the neighborhood, sir. There is a depreciation of the equipment
Well,
of some
yeah.
percentage each year,
Sure.
but I was estimating that it would be in the range of 450, but you are, you
yeah,
are
like I
in
say,
the
I mean, I'm
ballpark.
just doing real simple, just,
Right.
I've always looked at it
And-
like this. You know, a year ago, there was no building there. And so it was only being taxed on the value of the land. So we're not going to get any tax revenue out of it for another
Right.
6 years. But then after that, it will bring in tax revenues that we
Oh,
didn't have
and-
before.
And I didn't mean for my comment to be taken as I have a problem with it, because that's, you know, just the differences in incentives between North Carolina and South Carolina, and some things, you know, have cost North Carolina major issues in the past. And like I say, I'm not saying that don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying, but that incentive, I mean, it's nothing to scoff at. It's, I mean, it's real money. Commissioner Mayberry, I understand what you're saying, and I agree 100%, because if that building and that company wasn't coming here, there wouldn't be any, anything anyway. So, and biggest thing I was trying to say is I'm not, it's not a problem for me.
And Dave,
Thank
what did
you,
you
sir.
say the burn-off time frame of that was?
6 years.
6 years. So really, in essence, if they continue to grow here, we kind of have an annuity once that burns off.
Correct. I mean, I like to look at it as investment for the future. Obviously, it's almost the same incentive package that was offered to Paragon Films, for example. Their incentive package, of course, is expired now. Their property tax bill now is $110,000 a year. They have a 100,000 square foot facility and about 50 employees. So in a
Super excited that Borealis is here, and 100% of a lesser value is more than 0 of no value. That's simple math, too. But my question is, and you hear it, and David, I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer, but people say, well, what about your legacy companies? What does that do for them? What's their playing field like?
Well, as I had noted, the policy applies equally to existing companies as well, and we actually tweaked this policy maybe last year or 2 years ago possibly, to be more friendly to those existing companies and who are investing in and retaining jobs. So we're not requiring at a certain level for existing companies don't have to create new jobs. If they make a significant investment of equipment, machinery, then they can qualify for this property tax grant as well.
So that's negotiable ongoing?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we've had a number of existing companies use this policy. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. You know, no one wants to give away anything, but with the market that we're in, we've got to, you know, be in the playing field. And I keep coming back to Borealis when they stood right there and said I think 40 places that they looked at, you know, and they came to Alexander County. And another note to that, the 37 people that get those jobs, you know, and it's not minimum wage jobs, you know, they're going to be pretty glad that, you know, that we did this. So, you know, it's a pretty big investment, I think. So, you know, we just need to look at it as we do everything. We kind of take it apart, so.
And using the simple math minus depreciation and all that kind of stuff, excuse me, years 7 through 30, you know, there will be revenue generated to Alexander County. You know, if there was no depreciation, everything stayed the same, it'd be essentially 2.27 million. So, you know, that's real money.
Yes, sir.
And,
Fourfold the investment or the incentive.
yeah, which, well, like I say, is 4 times the incentive, so.
Okay. Any questions or comments from anybody in attendance? You're certainly free to come speak and ask any questions you might have. Okay.
If there are no questions, Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully ask the board to approve this agreement as presented.
Okay, so I guess our first motion is to close the public hearing and then vote on the item. So I'd entertain a motion to close the public.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. Any discussion about the motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. Okay. At this time, you've heard the recommendation. I'd entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion to accept the Alexander County Joint Economic Development Amendment.
Motion, do we have a second? And this would be, we're doing these separately. This would be the real property tax incentive grant.
Second.
Second. Any discussion about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. Okay.
Now, do we need one for the personal property?
Yes, we're going to do the first part. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing for Borealis Compounds Incorporated Utilities Development Incentive Grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into public hearing to discuss the Borealis Compounds Utilities Development Incentive Grant.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion about the motion? Those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. Mr. Icenhour.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This second public hearing is for a second agreement between Alexander County and Borealis, and we just felt like it was simpler, I guess, in the long run to have these separated, although they both involve incentives. This agreement, in my opinion, is really a utilities development agreement, which is how it was titled. Some of these items that we are agreeing to assist Borealis with do not have a cost, and some of them do. I thought I would very quickly just hit the highlights of it. If you look on the items beginning in paragraph 2A, you'll notice several of these things say coordinate, which is exactly what that means. In 2A, we're just going to help them coordinate with the Energy United Electric Corporation to ensure that they get electrical service to their facility. We don't foresee that being a cost to Alexander County other than the time that I spent with coordinating whatever is required for that to be successful. With 2B, the county will coordinate with Energy United Water Corporation to ensure water line services the facility. I think that will have a small cost for engineering a water line, probably a couple of $1,000s at the most. I've already done some coordinating with Energy United Water Corporation, so that process is well underway. 2C seems like the same as 2B, but it's actually, 2B is really specifically referring to the water line itself, and 2C refers to actually the company having the service provided by Energy United. The big one in this is 2D, which is the expansion relocation of the wastewater treatment pump station that is currently in the industrial park that county already owns. And I know you remember, we've talked about this a lot, but that is an aging pump station that currently only serves Paragon Films, but it is poorly sited, and as I said, it's aging, and it desperately needs to be relocated and expanded in order to serve other potential industries in the park. And so this was a good opportunity to do that and serve Borealis's new facility as well. So this existing pump station will be replaced with a larger pump station that'll serve Paragon Films, Borealis, and the 25-acre industrial site that the county owns on White Plains Road. So we're getting several things for our dollar here. And also, just as a reminder, we have been awarded a $298,000 grant from Appalachian Regional Commission to assist in relocating this pump station. 2E is just a reimbursement to the company for local permitting fees, and that's a very common practice in economic development as well, as is assistance with utilities for new companies. Again, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions, gentlemen? Okay, any questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, please raise your right hand. Now we'd entertain a motion to,
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Borealis Compounds Utilities Development Incentive Grant.
okay, have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, is there any discussion about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. Thank you, Mr.
gentlemen,
Icenhour,
and,
good work.
Hope to come back soon and with some of the Borealis officials again, give you periodic updates on how the project's going.
We'd like to see you here every month with things like this, just so you know.
Glad to.
All right, at this time, I would recognize Mr. Jon Pilkenton, Director of Planning and Development. We're going to have a public hearing, rezoning ordinance amendments, and new zoning map. So, gentlemen, I'd entertain a motion that we go into public hearing for this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to go into public hearing to discuss the rezoning ordinance amendments and new zoning map.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion about the motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. Okay, Mr. Pilkenton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to the board. This public hearing is for the discussion and adoption of the amendments to the zoning ordinance that will now be called the Alexander County Town of Taylorsville zoning ordinance. Over the past 7 or 8 months, the Planning and Zoning Commission, along with staff from the Western Piedmont Council of Governments and myself, have been working on combining the Town of Taylorsville zoning ordinance into the county zoning ordinance. And what that would effectively do is just create one zoning ordinance for the entire county. The biggest thing for county residents that are not within the town limits or the town's ETJ is that there are no changes in zoning designations for any person residing on their property or any businesses or industry that's located in the county. These amendments will add the 3 residential zoning districts from the town into the new zoning ordinance, and we'll also add the B1, which is a central business district that exists in the town of Taylorsville, the B2, which is a general business district, the B3, which is the neighborhood business district, from the town into the county's ordinance. The notable changes for zoning are that the B4 district in the town, which it's called B4 Highway Business, will now be the county's HC Highway Commercial. The M1 and M2 districts, which are the light and heavy industrial respectively, will now become LI Light Industrial and HI Heavy Industrial. Again, those zoning changes will actually take place in the town. The Planning and Zoning Commission will add 2 additional members. It will go from a 7-member board to a 9-member board. Those 2 members will be appointed by the Taylorsville Town Council. And that's really all of the significant changes to the ordinance. What the county would be adopting tonight are those proposed amendments to the ordinance. The Taylorsville Town Council met last Monday, June the 12th, and approved the new, what is now their new zoning ordinance, as well as the proposed rezonings that will occur within the town's jurisdiction, as well as adopting this new official zoning map, which will be called the Alexander County Town of Taylorsville zoning map. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
There is a massive amount of information here.
It is, and really and truly, if you take the county's existing ordinance and look at it, and then look at the new ordinance, what you see a lot of is things have been added. Nothing's really been taken out of the county's, well, there's really, nothing has been taken out of the county's ordinance, except for a few conditional use districts where we just decided if you want to do a multifamily development, you'll just do it as a conditional use under a multifamily, it's a planned multifamily development. And if you wanted to do a commercial plan unit development, you would just do it under commercial plan unit development instead of having separate zoning districts to have to rezone and then do a conditional use for. You would just apply for it within the zoning district that the property's already currently zoned.
So this will in essence simplify and add consistency.
Yes. We've been, or the town has been contracting with the county, at least for the previous budget year, for us to do the zoning enforcement
Right.
and essentially handle all the zoning and planning duties. They've been paying the town. And so the town doesn't even issue zoning permits anymore. Everything is handled through Alexander County Planning and Development at our office at the old Wittenberg School. So this makes it more formal so that there's one ordinance. They pick up the phone and call. They don't have to call the town and then get an answer there and then have to come to the county. They don't have to go up there to get a permit anymore. They just come straight to the county, and we will administer their zoning ordinance. Or, excuse me, we will administer the zoning in the town of Taylorsville now via Alexander County.
John, a whole lot of information in here, a whole lot for me to digest or even to begin to say that I understand, and I can see how people get things lost in long pieces of legislation because it's hard to see it all. But just enlighten me here, if you would. On page 3, we're rolling down through here, and we go from a manufactured home at the bottom of page 2 over into adult uses, adult arcades, bookstores, cabaret, massage parlors, all that. But it doesn't really say what is or what isn't, or how it is or how it isn't. What permits or doesn't permit those establishments?
Okay, there's a permitted use chart on page 57 that identifies all the uses and where they are permitted within the jurisdictions now. What you're seeing on page 3 are definitions. These definitions were added to the ordinance, I believe, in about 2009 or 10, when there was some concerns about those types of uses coming to the county. My understanding is, because I wasn't involved with the planning at the time, is there's only one place that an adult use could be located within the county. And that's all that the state requires. It's actually, those types of uses are protected under First Amendment rights in the Constitution, under freedom of speech. And zoning ordinances, no matter where they exist in the state of North Carolina, have to actually allow for that type of use somewhere. And it could only be one location. But so it's actually protected as a First Amendment right, freedom of speech. We have not had anybody inquire about any sort of use such as that. So I understand the question and the concern, but those are just definitions.
Not just that, but I mean, so many things. It's
Yes.
hard to follow.
Right, and I won't disagree that it's not, especially not working with it every day. But like I said, the good thing is that the people that live in Alexander County, in the county proper, won't see any change of how it's administered as it is right now versus how, if this is adopted, it will be administered on July the 1st. It makes it easier for the citizens within the town. There'll be one planning commission meeting that they come to if there's a rezoning and it occurs within the town limits or the town's ETJ. The Planning and Zoning Commission will make a recommendation to the Taylorsville Town Council. They will have final decision on a rezoning or conditional use within their jurisdiction. If it's in the county, say the Bethlehem area, it would come to the county commissioners. It doesn't require both the county commission and the town council to approve rezonings. It goes to the specific legislative body that governs that area.
And I will say one thing, and I know I've said it to you and probably everybody here. We need to, when was the last time, 2001 was when?
Well, the ordinance,
countywide-
the original ordinance for Alexander County was adopted in September of '01.
Right, and so it's just been a little piece here and a little piece
Yes.
there. We need to go back and we need to litigate. We need to look at every single part of our zoning ordinance, and because things have changed in the last 16, 17 years. So we need to go back and do that. Transportation routes have changed. Business locations, there's a lot of things have changed. We need to go back and look at that. And I would like for us to maybe try to get that completed before the end of the year.
Any other questions from this group?
With the town not having to do as much as they have been from a zoning perspective that the county will now be doing for them, is there consideration from the town to the county?
Yeah, we have a contract.
Okay,
They pay us
okay.
to provide that.
That was my question.
And essentially, one of the things that this really helps do is the planning board for the town of Taylorsville. Before I started full-time with the county, I worked for the Council of Governments. I started there in September of '01. And my first town was the town of Taylorsville. We had a planning board. We would meet, once a month, maybe every other month. The economy slowed down, things slowed down, development wasn't occurring. I don't think any of you have ever worked at the COG, but you don't just have one town, you end up with 4, maybe 5 towns, which means you could end up with 10 night meetings a month. And when you start realizing, hey, there's nothing to discuss or no action to be taken, you quit meeting. And then all of a sudden you get into this spiral of, gosh, we haven't met in 6 months or a year, but there hasn't been anything to meet about. Long story short, the town's just not had a lot going on. So what this does is adding members to the planning commission will actually, there'll be more because we meet at least 8 times a year in the county. We may meet 12 times a year, but we meet a lot more frequently, so there'll be a lot more discussed and a lot more go on. But the workload that's going to be incurred from the town is not that great, and they're reimbursing us, for that.
In your experience, other small towns, have they done this similar type measure, what's been done here?
Honestly,
Are we
I
trendsetters?
don't know. We could very well be from just a county with only one town in it. We may be the only one in the state where there's just a unified ordinance that's administered by the county.
Might be somebody's case study.
Could be, yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, because anything that happens in Taylorsville is good for Alexander County. Anything that happens outside of Taylorsville in Alexander County is still good for the town of Taylorsville. So we might as well develop, the same way, in a sense.
Are there any questions from anyone in the audience that'd like to ask Mr. Pilkenton anything? Okay. If there are no more questions, I'd entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
Close public hearing?
Second?
Second.
All those, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise? Yes.
Yes, sir. Just two things before, if there's a motion made, there would need to be one motion to adopt the amendments to the zoning ordinance,
Okay,
and that one voted on, and then a motion to adopt the new
Zoning map.
Alexander County
Thank you.
Taylorsville zoning map.
thank you for that clarification. Okay, you've heard the recommendation, so I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the new zoning amendments, and I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion about the motion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed likewise. Okay, now I entertain a motion for acceptance of the new zoning map.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that we adopt the new Taylorsville, Alexander County zoning map.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Likewise. Thank you, Mr. Pilkington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, we did move the county manager's report, and agenda item number 5 was forming a committee for a feasibility study in regard to the ABC referendum. I'll recognize Commissioner Mayberry, just to give some brief background on this. And
I don't know how many months ago, I'm going to guess and say it was January, maybe February, when we had someone from the state ABC board come to this meeting and speak about the different ways that Alexander County could go about opening any additional ABC stores. The two, really, I guess the two recommendations, or only two recommendations that she made was either Alexander County start their own ABC board, or that Alexander County, I guess, contract out with a existing county, most likely Catawba County, to run any additional ABC stores. That is currently the situation in Taylorsville. They contract out to Catawba County to run their ABC stores. And the reason for that is buying power. The more stores you have, the cheaper they can buy the products. So there's a couple other reasons. I'll not go into all that right now, but those were the two recommendations that they made. We have heard a lot from the citizens on asking when some kind of decision on that would be made. So we are going to start a feasibility committee to study which direction Alexander County should make, and they'll come back and make a recommendation to us. And I think the consensus among us was, everybody nominate 2 people, and then they would come up with a recommendation, and we would move on that recommendation, whatever it is. So it is not, how do I put this? The question is, the voters overwhelmingly voted yes to having the potential to have more ABC stores in Alexander County. Do I think that we're going to have more than maybe one additional ABC store? I do not. So I think there's the possibility of having one ABC store open up in Bethlehem, but I think that's probably about it. I believe that they have to do around $1 million worth of business a year just to break even on one of those stores. So I don't see any additional locations being able to sustain that type of revenue. So with that being said, I would make a motion that we move to approve a feasibility study committee, and at our next meeting, I believe is July 19th, that we would all come back with at least 2 names for people to be on that committee.
Okay. And I think we'd also look for geographic diversity in that. I mean, I know we've probably just common sense would say that one area probably has the most likely chance to hit that $1 million mark, but not to leave any stone unturned. I think we would have to have some geographic diversity on that committee. But you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Now, discussion on the motion.
Well, I'd just like to say, just as Commissioner Mayberry stated, it has passed. What we're really looking at, I guess, would be, is it cost effective? What's the feasibility? And, this committee would be the one who would do the work and bring it back to the board.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the county does not fund nor is liable, so it, in essence, has to stand on its own merits.
Well, not this committee, but
Right,
if a Alexander County ABC board were formed in the future, then yes.
Okay.
So for clarification, this committee, this committee would be charged with determining not whether Alexander County would have or not, would have an ABC store or not, but they are charged with determining what is the fit, is it better to form the county to form its own ABC board or to look to another entity, being another county, to operate a new ABC store
Well, not,
inside Alexander County.
not another county, because Catawba County does not operate the ABC store. The Catawba County ABC Board is
I'm
a
sorry.
separate
Exactly.
entity.
And that was just, right.
So, yes, that is correct. So this committee will be charged with figuring out one of two, or giving us one of two answers. Is it better to form a Alexander County ABC board, or is it better to subcontract to another county, most likely, another county ABC board, most likely Catawba County ABC?
And in that case, Catawba County would ultimately make the decision
Yes.
whether or not it made sense. They would look at their numbers, I assume, on 127 and try to figure out
Yes.
how
But-
that affects that store and if it makes economic sense.
Could be Caldwell County as well, right? With the
It could
Granite
be.
Falls location.
Could be, yeah.
I'm correct in thinking in Catawba County, that's who actually has the control of the Taylorsville
That's correct.
ABC store. Thank you.
That's correct. Okay, gentlemen, any other discussion? And remember, we need to get some names back here if we move forward with this.
So it's basically the committee hopefully will bring back to us which of those two ways would be more financially advantageous for Alexander County.
Yes. And let me make one more recommendation here. I said we'd all bring back two more names. Let's let the chairman nominate three, just so we'd have an odd number. So there will be, there won't be a split decision.
Is that amending your motion?
I'm amending my motion.
You've heard the amendment of the motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Second.
to the amended motion.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion and amended motion?
Just one more comment. Whatever the recommendation, the Alexander County Board of Commissioners is not deciding whether or not there's going to be any ABC store, any additional ABC stores located anywhere in Alexander County, and will not be making that decision at any point in time.
The committee won't be making that decision either. That's a
That's correct.
recommendation.
We make a recommendation. Correct. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. Okay, at this time, item number 6, our county manager's report. I'll recognize Mr. Rick French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things to mention tonight. One, CBSA, our architectural firm that's working with us on the Community One Bank building, has been meeting with departments and is working on their plans, a preliminary floor plan and upfit for the building will be distributed to the commissioners for an approval of a final budget will be presented at our July 17th meeting. So that project's moving along, the planning portion of it is. A free concert is being offered on Sunday, July 2nd, 2017 at 2 p.m. at Alexander Central High School Auditorium. The 440th North Carolina Army National Guard Band will provide the entertainment. And again, that's a free concert, and public is urged to attend. On Saturday, July the 8th, the Independence Day celebration will be held, and that's on Saturday, July 8th. Activities include live music, food, children's activities, which will be beginning at 6 p.m., and fireworks will start at approximately 10 p.m. One other thing, on Saturday, we held our third Vertical Mile Challenge trail race. I think Chad's got some pictures. We had a record number of people. The first year we had our race, we had 14 people. We had 17 last year. Well, this year we had 99 folks start, and 92 people finish.
Oh, wow.
It's 8 laps. And you go 5,280 foot of up, 5,280 foot of down, and about 17 miles. If you've been out to Rocky Face Park, the Stairway to Heaven Trail, which is what these folks are on at the time, early in the race, is tough, but you do that trail 8 times. We had a new course record set by Gavin Combs of Raleigh in 2 hours and 21 minutes. The course record was 2:56, so he shattered the record. In the women's division, we had a new course record also. Let's see, Holly Klein, age 41 of Boone, was at 3:53, and she was, the old time was 4:36, so she crushed the course record also. It was a tough day. It was very warm, very humid, but we dodged the rain for the most part. Our final finisher finished just under 9 hours, and it was a 73-year-old young lady from Hamlet, and we applauded her efforts, but again, we had a record crowd, and people liked the uniqueness of it. We had folks from all over, just mentioned some of the places. Of course, Taylorsville, Hiddenite, Stony Point, Statesville, Conover, Hickory, North Wilkesboro, Charlotte, Huntersville, Boone, Fayetteville, Raleigh, Cary, Durham, Mooresville, Flat Rock, Hamlet, State Road, Stanley, Broadway, Sanford, Pittsboro, Bahama, Goldston, Winston-Salem, Hendersonville, Mooresville, Thomasville, Clyde, Pineville, Southern Pines. We also had folks from Fleetwood, South Carolina, Rock Hill, TKK, Chaplin, Irmo, Columbia, Myrtle Beach, Fort Mill. I guess that's pronounced Lugolf, Tennessee. We had folks in Jonesboro. We also had some folks from Missouri City, Texas. So we had a good crowd. There was some impact on the accommodations at the golf course, and we had a number of folks camping. The restaurants had a good business on Saturday after the race, and so we're very pleased. We're hoping next year we'll do better than this, but we're being discovered. So for the Vertical Mile at Rocky Face Park, we got great reviews from the runners, and we had a lot of serious runners. We had a couple folks that participated in the Olympic trials and the marathon, participated in the race. So pretty cool for Alexander County. So you can see the number of folks enjoying themselves going up the hill. So if you haven't been out there, you're missing a treat. Vertical Mile can be done by anybody. You can participate anytime, but this is just a race we have one day a year to do 8 laps in a day, and it's a lot of people volunteer to make this possible, and we have a lot of fun. It's a lot of work too, but we're very proud of this.
Mr. French,
Yes, sir.
you talked about the impact at restaurants and
Yes, sir.
the rooms at the golf course and stuff. Is there a formula or any way that you can measure what that economic impact is? I know people do it all the time,
Yeah,
so.
we'll talk with the COG. There's somebody at the Western Piedmont that could help us do that.
That would be interesting, because that'd be, I mean, great information to have to share and promote.
Certainly.
Do they put like something really scary behind everybody to make them,
No,
because I can't understand why anybody would want to do that unless they were trying to get away from something really scary or
Couple snakes or
well,
dangerous or something.
these type of races now are getting very popular, like lap races where you do repeats. And this one with the vertical mile has gotten a lot of attention. So it's pretty impressive, the field that we had. The fellow that the fastest lap, the first 2 years we had our race, was 20 minutes and 33 seconds. Think about that, and that's pretty darn fast for that. I do a vertical mile lap. The winner this year, his slowest lap was 18:45. His first lap was 16 minutes and 12 seconds. His last lap was 16:47.
Oh, he's got something left in the tank.
Yeah. So, and we had and pretty impressive folks there, so,
You wonder why the guy's got the knee brace on.
yeah, well, it just comes with the territory, I guess.
Kinesis tape stuff.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention was, just to give you a brief sales tax report. You have the information. So far through June, we've collected 82% of our sales taxes, $3,636,230. We budgeted $4,442,000. We have 3 more payments, if you will, of sales tax money. Our new sales tax is at $1,126,704. We budgeted $1 million. Our regular sales tax is running 7.13% ahead of the same time last year. So we're running ahead on our sales tax dollars. So that's all I have, unless there's questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions on the report, gentlemen? Okay, hearing none, I would ask at this time that we get a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion about the motion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. At this time, I'd consider a motion to go in closed session, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, A 4, 5, and 6, Economic Development, Contractual, and Personnel, and we will re-adjourn only for adjournment only.
Mr. Chairman, I move to go into closed session.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. We're in closed session.